Olestra. Okay, so picture this. It's the late 90s. You're at a sleepover, the house is dark. You're halfway through a Goosebumps marathon, and someone busts out a bag of Wow chips. Fat-free, they say. Eat as many as you want, they say. You feel like a snack god. But what they don't tell you is that those glorious chips were made with Olestra. Fat substitute that your body, in all its digestive glory, can't actually process. At all. So instead of absorbing the fat like a normal snack, it kinda slides right through you. The phrase anal leakage wasn't just a warning label, it was a lifestyle hazard. It sounded too good to be true because it was. Sure, you could eat a whole bag without counting a single fat gram, but you might also need to sprint to the bathroom mid-movie. The FDA didn't initially ban it in the US, but after the horror stories rolled in, let's just say, the party mood shifted. Other countries weren't having it. Canada and the EU were like, hard pass. And eventually, so were most Americans. To this day, Olestra technically still exists in a few niche snacks, but let's be real. Once a food becomes infamous for greasing your exit ramp, its days are numbered. But this next food would make you wonder why it took so long to be banned. Bromated vegetable oil. Back in the 80s and 90s, if you were chugging a citrusy Mountain Dew, Squirt, or Sundrop like it was liquid sunshine, you were probably sipping on a little BVO cocktail without even knowing it. It was added to keep the flavor oils from separating and floating to the top, kinda like that one friend who always stirs their orange juice, because the pulp freaks them out. Now here's the shocker, BVO is made with bromine. That's the same stuff used as a flame retardant. You know, to stop fires. And we were just casually knocking it back with our Cool Ranch Doritos like it was NBD. Turns out, guzzling flame retardant-laced soda might not be the healthiest life choice. Who knew, right? Well, people started reporting side effects like skin rashes, memory loss, and neurological issues. No surprise there. One guy literally developed bromine poisoning from drinking too much of it. That's a real thing. His hands stopped working properly. So eventually, other countries were like, no, we're out, and banned it. The EU and Japan kicked it to the curb. The US dragged its feet for a while. But after enough bad press, lawsuits, and concerned moms armed with Google, even American brands started to slowly remove BVO from their drinks. As of 2024, it's officially on the way out. Moral of the story, if your soda needs fireproofing chemicals to taste right, maybe just stick with water. However, try not to grit your teeth at this next one. Pufferfish. Now before you roll your eyes and say, but that's a delicacy, hear me out. In the 80s, people were all about exotic food flexes. If you knew someone who ate pufferfish, it was like they had a death wish, like, oh, you had spaghetti? Cute, I had fish that could paralyze me. See, the thing with pufferfish is it contains tetrodotoxin, a poison that's about 1/200 times more toxic than cyanide. We're talking one wrong cut by the chef, and your dinner becomes your last supper. There's no antidote, just thoughts and prayers. But back then, it was this weird badge of honor. People would travel, try it, survive, and brag about it for decades. Yeah, I ate fugu once. Real spicy. Almost died. Anyway, how's your tuna melt? Fast forward a few decades and multiple cases of people literally dropping dead from dinner. Suddenly countries started going, maybe this is a little too hardcore for a Friday night appetizer. Places like the European Union and several Southeast Asian countries either restricted it to extremely licensed chefs or banned it outright. Japan still allows it, but only chefs with years of special training can serve it. In the US, it's technically not banned, but it's heavily regulated, like imported only from specific licensed sources, and the chefs need to know exactly what they're doing. So yeah, unless you personally know a sushi samurai with a license and a god-tier steady hand, it's probably best to skip the fugu, because let's be honest, no food is worth gambling with your respiratory system. Not even for the clout. Now buckle up, because this next one is so wild, it sounds like an urban legend. Lindane? Sounds like a sleepy little suburb, right? Nope. Lindane was an insecticide. Yep. Actual bug poison that somehow found its way into everything from agricultural crops to head lice shampoos. Like, imagine you're a kid in the 80s, scratching your head and your mom slathers on some medicated treatment. That's Lindane. And here's the thing, it worked. Oh, it killed lice all right? It also kinda didn't care if it messed with your brain cells in the process. Minor detail. See, Lindane is part of the Organo Chlorine family. That's the same family that gave us DDT. The chemical so toxic, Rachel Carson had to write a whole book, just to get people to stop spraying it like Febreze. Long-term exposure to Lindane was linked to seizures. It was in lice treatments, scabies, creams, and used on crops because, nothing says healthy snack like pesticide-seasoned wheat. Eventually, the science caught up to the madness, and countries started banning Lindane left and right. The EU was like, yeah, no. And even the US, after decades of debate, finally banned it from agricultural use. Ractopamine, this was just your average 80s farmyard upgrade. Still is used to bulk up pigs, cows, and turkeys. It made animals leaner, more muscular, and ready for market faster. And the best part? It was cheap. So meat producers were like, inject it, feed it, rub it on their hooves if you have to. Just give us more meat. Now, did anyone stop to ask what would happen if humans ate animals treated with this stuff? Kind of. But the results were sketchy. Side effects in animals included rapid heart rates, broken limbs, and increased stress. So yeah, if the pigs were basically panicking before they hit your plate, maybe that's not the best vibe for your Sunday bacon. Eventually, the rest of the world caught on and said, hard pass. Over 160 countries banned it, including the EU, China, and Russia. And the animal welfare side of things was a horror show. But the US? Oh, we kept it rolling. The FDA approved it in 1999, and to this day, it's still used in American livestock. So if you're eating pork in the US that isn't labeled organic or ractopamine-free, you're probably getting a little extra dose of science with every bite. So yeah, that super juicy pork chop might have been lifted like a bodybuilder on mystery supplements. Gains? Sure, but with a side of anxiety and international trade disputes. This next one is proof that the sweeter it is, the more dangerous. Cyclamate artificial sweetener. Back in the day, cyclamate was the sugar substitute. It was used in everything from those guilt-free diet sodas to sugar-free candies. The ones that promised you could eat all the sweet things without the consequences, while secretly wondering if it was really too good to be true. But here's where things take a turn. Turns out, cyclamate wasn't as innocent as it seemed. See, it was banned in the US way back in 1969. After some not-so-cute research on lab rats. Scientists fed these poor little rodents a steady diet of cyclamate, and the results were not pretty. They developed bladder cancer. That was enough for the FDA to say, yeah, no, let's not go there. And cyclamate was pulled from the US market. But here's the kicker. Cyclamate wasn't just dead and buried in America. It kept going globally. Especially through the 80s, countries around the world still saw it as the go-to sugar replacement because, hey, who cares about a few lab rats, right? People were still living their best diet lives, sipping on sodas, chomping down on sugar-free treats, blissfully unaware of the controversy. It wasn't until more research came through that the stuff was officially banned in even more places. Sprout sandwiches. If you weren't tossing some alfalfa sprouts on your sandwich, were you even living? Forget your regular leafy lettuce, this was the real deal. Sprouts were like the superfood of the day, the perfect way to show you were a conscious eater. Just like all those yoga moms who probably had energy crystals hanging in their cars. But here's the thing. While they looked super chic and packed with that I'm healthy but still cool vibe, those little green sprouts came with a side of danger that no one was really talking about. See, while alfalfa sprouts themselves are fine in moderation, they're very prone to carrying bacteria like E. coli and salmonella. And because these little guys are grown in warm, moist conditions, they're basically a bacteria playground. Now these days, you'll still find people who swear by them as a clean-eating staple. But the health community's view on sprouts has become a bit more cautious. In fact, food safety experts now warn people, especially those with weakened immune systems, against eating raw sprouts unless they're really sure of where they came from. Are there any other foods or supplements that we missed in this video? Let us know in the comments. Also subscribe to this channel. Only takes a second. See you in the next video.